call the meeting to order.
That's nice.
Please stand for the pledge, Mr. Luna.
Yes, thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That's really nice.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Here.
Ms. Elcha?
Here.
Mr. Lindemann?
Here.
Mr. Ramos?
Here.
Mr. Bahrain?
Here. Item D, board meeting minutes not previously approved. Number one, October 11, 2023, and a special board meeting, Mr. Lindemann.
I move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Elcha?
Ms. Elcho. Any discussion regarding this, board members? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Bahrain?
Yes. Item E1, summary of current events, Superintendent Samaniego.
Yes, Mr. President, board members, members of our staff and community, and students. We are well under our testing season. Our elementary and middle schools officially started their testing season, while the high school already began with the various different tests that they have to take, and these are all the state mandated tests. And so we want to remind the parents that attendance is extremely important. The outcome of those tests really resemble how well our educators are doing at their schools. And when we have low attendance, it does really affect that letter grade. And so we really want to remind our students and our parents to be attentive to those testing dates. Tomorrow, Douglas High School does not have an early release day, and the other schools, I believe, don't either. So no early release day tomorrow. Governing board, you may have been hearing a lot of discussion on whether ADE is going to fully fund our, Title I or ESSA grants. And President Biden signed the fiscal year 24 federal appropriations into law, which basically what it said, it's going to continue funding Title I and Title II funding without any cuts. However, there's been a lot of concern from public school districts regarding the 20% cut that may happen. AD has reached out to school districts. They've informed us. And what they're saying is that they're just waiting for the awarded amount to come from the USDOE before they can inform us if we're going to get that extra 20% funding. And so obviously we've been having discussions on our end, as every other school district, because a lot of our positions are funded out of, especially Title I grant. And so that is definitely an area of concern for any school district. And so hopefully I heard in the news today, by possibly Monday of next week, those funds will be released to the states by USDOE. And so hopefully we won't be faced with any major cuts. So that is on the news continuously. Also, we have some information. Mr. Smith, you asked me to look into the KGA, the different policies within the Booster Club, policies that we have in place. So Mr. Soto, Mrs. Cox and I are working on that, and we are getting more information from the auditors, specifically on the fact that staff members cannot hold a position within the PTSO and Booster Club organizations, specifically like the president or the treasurer, because then you become a signer on the account. And so there's that conflict of interest. You're a staff member, but then you're also helping that organization. And we know that in a town such as ours, where there's very limited amount of parents who volunteer for these organizations, it makes it quite difficult and I will tell you that every single one of our principals will agree with that it makes it extremely difficult to get parents. So we are looking at that and getting further information on the policy that is provided by ASBA and getting some guidance from the auditors that we work with, okay? We also want to thank the Irma de la Vega family for hosting the annual elementary basketball tournament. It was held last last Saturday. And that weekend, we had a lot of events going on, from the softball tournament to the Irma de la Vega. So our results for the girls: first place went out to Joe Carlson, second place Stevenson, third place Clausen. For boys, first place Clausen, second place Ferris, third place Stevenson. So at our next board meeting, we're going to be recognizing our first place little elementary teams, and they did a fabulous job. And so a big shout out to the Irma de la Vega family for continuing. We also have been continuing our conversations with our architect and our architect, not the construction company itself. While we've moved in and we had the ribbon cutting ceremony, there's still a lot of loose ends to tie up in terms of money. So POs, orders that still need to be paid, and so we are reconciling all of that in the next 2 weeks so that we know if there's any money left over in the project. There's still some items to be discussed in terms of what is owed to the contract, what is owed to the architect, and we may be asking the board to have another special meeting coming up soon so that you're all very well informed of what's going on with that. So all of that is still taking place even though we've already moved in. We're hoping to get some money left over so that we can, make that site even better in terms of, fencing or asphalt or the field or even, different things that the project still needs, okay? So that's still taking place, and that is all I have for today.
Okay, why don't you just move to the next
Okay.
item? And that would be your recognition of
Our GEM
Mrs.
award.
Bianca Hernandez.
No, it is, she's presenting next, but would love to recognize her for her hard work and dedication. The GEM award for this, for last month goes out to Alejandra Llanes. Alejandra is the athletic director's secretary or athletic program secretary at DHS coordinator. And she was nominated by several people. And so the GEM award goes out to her. And this is just some words. Alejandra is an invaluable asset to our athletic department. She has a tremendous involvement with student athletes, supporting them on and off the field by involving herself with Student Athlete Leadership Council. Equally impressive as her work supporting coaches. Notably, during the 93rd Ted James Invitational, she consistently made sure that track facilities were ready, gathered volunteers, prepared awards, setting up the luncheon. Her support is invaluable and made our success. She is a leader and shows up every time she needs to volunteer with any athletic or non-athletic event at DHS. So the GEM award goes out to Alejandra Llanes. So I think I'm just gonna take a picture over here. Because Alma gets to do her website. So here's your blue diamond. Congratulations, well deserved. Thank you, thank you.
And then now you have Douglas High School, Mrs. Bianca Hernandez.
Yes.
Hi, good evening. Superintendent, Board President, members of the board, community, staff. I'm here to present for Douglas High School, and we chose to present on our Advanced Placement Statistics course, ironically enough, because April is Mathematics and Statistics Awareness Month per State Department of ADE. So we thought it would be appropriate for us to discuss just our curriculum and what we do, and just give you an insight into advanced placement statistics. We did have a presentation, but I guess it's not up and available. So I am not going to share the information with you. I have brought with me no other than the people who are in the trenches and who are experiencing it for themselves. So I have several students that are going to present some information for you. They'll tell you their name and who they are, and they're all seniors. Well, no, I take that back. They're seniors and juniors, so they'll let you know what their status is, their grade, and they'll share some information with you.
Hello, my name is Juan Siqueiros, and I am a current senior at Douglas High School. And to start off this presentation, I just want to explain what AP Statistics is. And AP Statistics is basically it is a college course that we are offered at the high school that deals with just statistics and analyzing data. And it's a course that helps students develop their real life problem solving skills, as well as taking a lot of real life events and real life problems and applying them to a statistical perspective, which is really useful for college courses and data in general.
Okay, so my name is Annette Fragoso, and I'm also a current senior at the DHS, and I do take the AP Statistics class. And my slide was over the curriculum overview and what the many things we study in the class and we focus on. And we also focus on exploring data and describing patterns and departments for the patterns, as well as sampling and experimentation, which is planning and conducting studies, anticipating patterns, and exploring random phenomena using probability and simulation. Like an example of where we put this in place was when we flipped pigs, and we saw the various outcomes, and we saw which one was the most common one to come out, and we anticipated which one was the one with the most outcome. And then statistical inference is estimating population parameters and testing hypotheses. This is something that we're currently working on, and this is mainly we have a hypothesis, and we test this hypothesis by using various formulas, and at the end we actually see if the hypothesis was correct or incorrect.
My name is Victor Luna, and I'm a senior at Douglas High School. I'll be covering the advantages of taking AP Statistics. One of the biggest advantages, while it can be viewed either way, is, I think it's a little funny, the word correlation. You'll see it everywhere, and you'll often see it used incorrectly because correlation is actually a number that you'll see in statistics. But that's besides the point. So, as far as AP Statistics, one of the biggest advantages that we have is the college credit that a passing score can merit you. At the end of every AP Statistics course, there is a exam that you have to take, and scoring a 4 or 5 for most institutions will merit a college credit. It is also generally covering the same material that a first-year college course would cover, and it just really prepares you for what exactly you're going to be facing as far as when you're actually in college. As far as the skills that the class itself instills, you have great analytical skills. You will really look at any piece of data completely differently after you take a course like this, because it gives you such insight as to what exactly it helps you make meaning of data, and it helps you not just look at something like the average or the mean of a population as just a number, but rather as what that number actually means.
So during the course, we have many student engagement activities, and what I've learned in teaching this course is they need to see things hands-on. We need interactions, stimulus, different items for them to be involved with. So each one is going to come up and kind of just talk about a different activity that we did and what it applied to, or the concept that it applied to, and why they found it so easy to engage in the material.
Hi, my name is Isaias Cantua. I am a senior at Douglas High School, and one of my favorite activities that we performed was the Chips Ahoy activity, where we were able to separate the chocolate chips from the cookie. And this really helped me out because I was able to determine how we would apply these concepts to the real life, and how this helped me calculate the proportion for each chocolate chip to cookie wise. Thank you.
My name is Carol Barrios. I am currently a junior at Douglas High School, and I will be sharing some strategies for success that not only myself but as well as my classmates apply in Ms. Hernandez's class to be able to succeed. For the first one, Ms. Hernandez makes it incredibly easy to participate and engage in her class. by making sure to go through every lesson and concept thoroughly before we're able to move on. And she also makes space during those lessons to make sure that we can ask any questions so we're not confused. Another strategy is to practice with purpose and meaning. So Ms. Hernandez, the work that she gives us comes straight from the Pearson book, and it's all real data that is from the real world. And so we're able to conceptualize what we learn and use it in actual real world problems.
My name is Leila Alvarez. I'm a junior at Douglas High School. Another strategy for success is seeking help from teachers, peers, or in online resources when you need. This is really helpful because sometimes you just don't really understand, and if you don't take the extra step to really help yourself understand what you need to know in this class, you won't be able to really truly understand the concepts that you really need. Another strategy is assessing the AP exam. So in our class, we, as mentioned before, we use the AP book, the official AP stats book, to familiarize ourselves with how the test really is, how are they gonna format questions, and how to answer them, which obviously the test is the most important part of this class. That's what gives us our credit. And Ms. Hernandez is very good at showing us what we need to do and how to do it so we can get that good score on the test. Thank you.
My name is Ignacio Anguiano, and I'm a senior at Douglas High School. And the course, it basically prepares us for the future, like college and career readiness. It helps us explore different ideas and methods that would help us when we're in college. It prepares us for the workload, how classes could work, and also for our future success in a work environment. It helps us develop skills that other classes wouldn't be able to help us develop. And statistics in general is a very versatile class. Most majors or works in general use statistics. Data is very important in our world. So the class itself is very helpful for our future.
Another activity that we covered was Barbie bungee jumping, as it's called. And I know it sounds really silly because it really is. But basically, we're making meaning of making experiments in which we sort of tested the elasticity of different rubber bands and tied them to a Barbie or just any really kind of doll and tested how far a doll would drop from, a certain point and how far that rubber band would stretch. We would then use this in order to test what our hypothesis was, where we said this amount of rubber bands is going to make it so that this Barbie, when thrown off of the edge of the balcony, is going to just barely miss the floor. And, going through this Barbie bungee jumping activity just really gives you insight as to what making a hypothesis is and kind of just what experimental design in a whole is.
Another activity that we had done in class, and my personal favorite, was the disc throwing activity. And this was an activity that had students create a hypothesis and experiment with discs of different sizes and have them toss them into a goal, and using that data with them and their teammates create a hypothesis and a strategy to win a game in a competition that we would have held at the end of the week. And I think it was the best part about the whole activity was how engaging it was. I often hear a lot of people complaining about class and how they're not engaging and how they can't really seem to focus on material because they just don't really feel like their heart is in it. But this activity kind of brought the whole class together in a competitive spirit, and it allowed us to not only learn a lot about statistics and experimental design and strategy, but also had us fully engaged and brought the whole class together.
So throughout the course, we do spend a lot of time, some might call it playing and having fun. I call it learning. I guess it's just perspective. Some of the other activities is we have analyzed the proportional colors of Skittles and M&Ms. I I need to clarify, we don't have pigs that we actually roll. They're called probability pigs, and they're small little pink pigs that you toss, and they land in certain ways and certain sizes. We have dealt with Cheerios and how Cheerios, the proportion or the number of Cheerios and how it relates to the circumference of a circle. So they would have a circle on a paper and then fill it with Cheerios, count how many, and then count how many would be the diameter or the radius. We also had a memory game where I divided them into two groups, gave them different directions, and then asked them to memorize some things that I repeated or that I had read to them, and then they had to recite. And so we talked about the combination of different directions. So there's a lot of psychology that comes into the course as well. We also have our advanced psychology class, which some of the students take both classes. So they see the application and the meaning of statistics in itself. Does anybody have anything else to add? I just want to clarify, I won the disc toss game. Did I win? I did win. I cheated?
It was Jimmy.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Anyways, so, are there any questions?
First of all, I can't help but think about the continuum of the progress of our students in this district. A couple of months ago, or meetings ago, we had youngsters, toddlers almost on the floor, going through the ABCs and going through their phonics and all those things, just learning. And then now we gone the full gamut. Now we see the end product. And I tell you, you people are very impressive. The extent of your knowledge is impressive, and your presentation was excellent. So I want to thank you, and it makes me feel good sitting up here knowing that the Douglas District, again, reflecting on those very young children almost that we had here, and then we're listening to them talk about all these scientific things and all of the things we're learning in your class. So thank you. Members of the board, any other questions or comments?
I don't have a question, but I have a comment, if that's okay.
No, go ahead.
Okay, number one, thank you very much, and I'm very proud of all that you're doing and that you put yourself out there to enroll in an AP class. We need more and more students who do that. Secondly, learning should be fun. It should not be a chore. And when you go to class every day, you should leave feeling like you learned something and you had a good time doing it. So thank you very much for what you did. Hi, Carol.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yeah, I just wanted to reiterate also that it sounds like a more fun class than when I was there flipping pennies, and that was about the only thing we did. So, much more fun. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody else, members of the
Yes, I
board?
just
Mr.
wanted to
Ramos?
say I was really impressed with the presentation. And as everyone here at the board feels the same way, you make us feel very proud, make us feel that our time that we put in with the district is worth all of this because we do it from our hearts for you, the students.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ramos. Mr. Smith? Ms. Samaniego?
I will say that Mrs. Rodriguez did want Mrs. Hernandez to have you sit on the carpet crisscross applesauce, but she figured stats probably is not going to work that way. So thank you for your knowledge. And I've been in Mrs. Hernandez's classroom. Of course, I'm lost because I'm not there every day, but just the information and the content that is being taught to our kiddos is definitely something worth to note that it is good instruction, good tier 1 instruction, and for those students that struggle, they do have other avenues of support. So, thank you, Mrs. Hernandez.
Thank
and
you,
students.
Bianca. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
You continue doing that good job as you always do. Thank you very
I
much
try
for
hard.
being here. Mr. Lulu?
And I'm sorry your PowerPoint didn't work for some reason,
it's
but it's
fine.
technology.
Well, this is
We're
good.
versatile. I would just like to comment on President Brain's statement. You know, I think in society we get lost in all the negative and all the bad that's just going on around us, and we forget that, especially in DUSD, there are great things going on. We have great kids, we have great teachers, and I every year get to enjoy the end product. And for me, the most memorable and most exciting night is graduation night, when I get to watch all of them walk across the stage and get their diplomas because they work really hard. So watching them progress and watching them grow is a great thing.
Thank you, Bianca. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And by the way, these are very worthwhile presentations, Ms. Samaniego. I'm glad you do this because it gives the board, like Mr. Ramos said, it gives us an idea of what's actually going on, you know, in the district. And we sit up here and do a lot of things, business and things like that, but that's where it is, right there, you know, with what you're doing and what these kids are doing. All right, and thank you, Ms. Samaniego, for doing that, for bringing them to the board. Governing board member reports, Mr. Smith.
I have nothing.
Ms. Alchow.
I was really lucky to be able to attend the Douglas High School baseball game. They won. They annihilated their opponent. We'll just put it that way. And it was really great to see our kids out there.
Mr. Linderman.
I just wanted to thank the administration for the ribbon cutting. I think that was a wonderful opportunity for us to showcase what we're doing down here. It was on TV, I believe it was Channel 9, and I got to see that, and of course that's on the internet forever. And I do want to ask if we can still plan a little thing for the community to walk through.
Yes, that was actually part of my
Okay.
update, and I forgot to look at the post-it. So it's
Wonderful.
on Tuesday, April the 23rd,
Okay.
from 4 to 6, and it'll be open to anybody in the community to come and take a tour and look at the new facilities. And for those of us who went to Douglas High School many moons ago, I think it's a nice visit to see the change and the amazing work that we now have there at DHS.
And thank you again, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Mr. Ramos.
No, I'm just sorry, I missed the ribbon cutting ceremony, but I was up in Pine Top, and when I got back, I was cold, and I'm still cold. I haven't taken off my jacket out since I got back. Sorry I missed it.
I too would like to thank Melissa especially for always being, is she here? A
Yes,
gracious
she's right there.
host. You always do a wonderful job, Melissa, hosting not only the board, but the board's guests as well. All the civic leaders we had there. And it also be remiss if I didn't mention the good words that Mr. Luna had that day. And thank you for being there with us and for your words on that ribbon cutting. All right, do we have anybody that wants to
No, sir.
address the board? Oh, excuse me, I jumped, Mr. Luna, I'm not gonna forget you, I'm gonna let you, tonight's your night, it looks like, so
Absolutely.
let's get on to your report.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. President Brain, Superintendent Samaniego, members of the board, DUSD faculty and staff, and members of the public. The activity report at Douglas High School and DUSD schools for the month of April is as follows. We want to give great congratulations to our DHS Teacher of the Year, Mrs. Diana Martinez, Support Staff of the Year, Mrs. Maria Velasco, and new Teachers of the Year, Mr. Luis Daniel, Ms. Paola Rojo, and Mr. Benjamin Loreto. We would also like to congratulate our girls softball team for being the Hilda Luna tournament champions. Finally, Skills USA represented Douglas High School exceptionally well. Overall, we had 19 medalists, and 10 of them qualified with gold medals, which merits them a trip to nationals. Rather, a opportunity to attend nationals. As for what's going on in our district, state testing is happening throughout this entire month at all school sites. There will be an Employee of the Year celebration April 25th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the Douglas High School cafeteria, and the Academic Night of Excellence will be April 30th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the James Bredin Auditorium. At Douglas High School, we have quite a few events. From April 3rd to the 5th, we will be having the HOSA State Conference in Tucson. On April 11th through the 13th, DHS Drama Club will be presenting their annual play. This year it's going to be Mamma Mia the Musical. April 13th will be the FFA Plant Sale. April 17th will be the ACT Aspire for 2027. April 20th will be the DHS Car Show, along with the DHS Prom. April 23rd will be the DHS New Building Open House, as mentioned by Superintendent Samaniego, from 4 to 6. April 29th we will be hosting a Meet Your Future event. April 30th will be the College Fair for the cohort of 2025. At Rayburn Middle School, the Quarter 3 assembly was today at 2:15 p.m. 8th grade parent meeting will be on Thursday at 5 p.m. Quarter 4 sports will include baseball, softball, and track. At Paul Huber Middle School, the Quarter 3 awards ceremony will be on April 5th at 2:15 p.m. Quarter 3 sports will be baseball, softball, and track. The Mexican Folklorico Dance Recital will be April 27th at 5 p.m. and AASA testing started today. Best of luck to all students. At Clawson Elementary School, congratulations to our Clawson boys basketball team for placing first in the Irma de la Vega basketball tournament. Congratulations to our Clawson girls for placing third at the tournament. Clawson Panthers are preparing for our annual mile run that will be held in May by practicing running around the school as well as learning about making healthy life choices. ASA testing will be from April 4th through the 8th for our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders. At Stevenson Elementary School, congratulations to our 5th grade basketball team for placing second in the Irma de la Vega basketball tournament. Also, congratulations to our 5th grade boys for placing third in the tournament. AASA testing will begin tomorrow, April 3rd, for all 3rd through 5th grade students. April 12th, they will have their Boots and Beauties father-daughter dance from 5 to 8 p.m. At Joe Carlson Elementary School, Joe Carlson Quarter 3 Award Assembly will take place on Thursday, April 11th. Congratulations to the Joe Carlson girls basketball team for placing first in the Irma de la Vega basketball tournament. AASA testing will be at Joe Carlson from April 3rd to the 8th. At Sarah Marley Elementary School, the Spring Book Fair will continue through Wednesday, April 10th. The AASA testing reward dance will be held on Friday, April 12th, and the recent Kids Heart Challenge raised over $2,000 for the American Heart Association. At Ferris Elementary School, congratulations to our boys' 4th and 5th grade basketball teams for winning 3rd place in the 11th annual Irma de la Vega basketball tournament. Progress reports for Quarter 4 will be sent home on Wednesday, April 17th, and they will also celebrate Dia del Niño on Tuesday, April 30th. That concludes my report.
Thank you very much. Mr. Soto, he's on the phone?
Yes.
Is he gonna give his report?
Yes.
Go ahead, sir.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Good afternoon, Board President, board members, Superintendent Samaniego. This is a report for the month of March that you have in front of you. There's not a lot of changes from last month. We're probably going to have a final budget revision. We don't know yet if it's going to be next month or the month of May, where we're going to do another, like I said, another revision and adjust the current enrollment. Hopefully, I mean, it hasn't been, I mean, as drastic and bad as it was in the beginning of the year, but again, I just want to make sure that we account all of the, and then put the correct enrollment on that report. Do you have specific questions in terms of this report?
Is that your full report, Mr. Soto?
Yes, for now, yes.
Members of the board, do you have any questions regarding anything?
I just have one question that Ms. Samaniego brought up. I was reading, of course, of that 20%.
Yeah.
If that happens, is that going to be well, I imagine it'll be a major hit for us, but do we have to plan for a contingency?
Yes, and we've already been discussing, Mrs. Herrera is very involved, obviously. She oversees our grants and with Mr. Soto about potentially what that would imply, and maybe having to take on some of the positions that are funded out of title grant over to an M&O budget. And so those conversations have already happened. I'm confident that, and very hopeful that we won't need to do that. So that is conversation that's already been taking place, and I think every school district has been doing so.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Ramos, any questions regarding the budget? No. Well, let me follow up a little bit on what Mr. Lindeman was talking about. You made an interesting comment. We're all concerned about that 20%, and we know it's real. One of the things that I know that you always take into consideration, as well as Mr. Soto, is the ability to sustain those salaries in those grants. However, having said that, anytime that those grants are in danger of losing their funds and people are in danger of losing their positions due to the grant, the district doesn't automatically pick those people up in the M and O. And, you know, I just wanna say that,
Yes,
have you reacted?
definitely. No, most definitely, because as we all know, our contracts have very specific language. And so any position that is funded out of a grant, and let's say that grant goes, you know, away, or part of that funding goes away, then it's very clear in the contract. So it doesn't automatically mean that we're just gonna take them all onto our M&O budget. What I was referring to is just the conversations of what could potentially happen on key positions if we ever need to go that route. But definitely, yes, Mr. Brain, you are exactly right. And grant-funded positions are contingent upon the funds being available.
Yeah, that was just for
Yes,
clarification. The other thing that I wanted to ask while Mr. Soto's still on the phone is, you had mentioned that sometime in May, we're still looking at the one-time payment, right? He's not here. We're still looking at the one-time payment.
Yes, the one time out of ESSER, as soon as we finalize and close those expenses, we will know most likely by end of May what potentially, how much money we will have left over in the ESSER, because if we don't spend it, it goes back to, you know, the government. So we are looking at that. Don't have that amount yet. We have to, I'll bring that back to the board.
But we want to give
as
much as we can out of that program.
Yes.
All right, then now, I know that still hanging out there is, Ms. Samaniego had reported to the board at a past meeting when we were discussing contracts, and I think it was the issuance of contracts, that there were some people that were on those ESSER funds, that the money went away, and that she had the possibility of being able to move a couple of people, interventionalists specifically, to Title I, right? And you had spoken to Ms. Herrera about that. So that cut of that 20%, is that gonna have any effect about you having the thought or the possibility of moving those people?
Well, I mean, the interventionist, I believe, we're going into Title,
Let's move on one.
yeah, move to Title III.
Early childhood education.
K-3 literacy grant, yeah, so it wouldn't be the Title I grant. But if, let's say, that grant, if that grant doesn't have the ability to fund those positions as they were in ESSER, then we simply wouldn't put him there. But we are confident that she had enough money in there for 4 of the interventionists to retain. We have 14 being paid out of ESSER, and we knew, and they knew, our employees knew that once the year ended, the school year, then those positions are no longer in place for next year. So right now, we're looking at funding 4 into that grant, the literacy grant, not the Title I.
Okay, into ESSER.
Yes, no. From ESSER, once ESSER,
From ESSER
yes.
too. Title
Once
I,
ESSER, yes, once ESSER goes away, they would be moved into the early literacy grant.
Yeah, because board members, we need to know that if she comes back to us sometime in May and after all the dust settles and we know what the budget looks like, and hopefully all of those numbers will be resolved by the legislature and all of the powers to be up there, that we'll have a better understanding of what we can and can't do. And of course, Ms. Zededa said she feels comfortable, I think she said, with some of those people, but then that would probably be it. But we need to have a little bit of foresight and be thinking about that in case she comes back and knowing what we know about all the different variables that are going on right now, okay?
Yes.
All right, anything else you want? Mr. Soto, are you still on the line?
Yes, I'm still here. On your point of the one payment, just as a clarification, that payment is gonna be made in August. So it will be in the next fiscal year per se, but still gonna happen in August.
Okay, members of the board, after all that discussion, anything else on the budget? Mr. Smith?
No.
Ms. Alchow?
No.
Mr. Lindeman? No. Okay, then we'll, thank you, Mr. Soto. Is he gonna stay on the phone?
Yes.
I'll be here, yes.
Okay. Mrs. Cox, Human Resources.
Good afternoon. So our enrollment, and Mr. Soto talked about it a little. Our enrollment, our ADM is 3,686 students. So for the month of March, we had 25 entries or new enrollments, and we had 34 withdrawals. We're still, open enrollment is still going on until May 15th. It will close then. And we are still also under annual registrations, and we have 461 pending throughout the district. So we're working hard on that. In terms of HR, teacher contracts went out, and we are still pending some, with the majority being due by the end of this week. So we'll know where we stand, how many positions, if any, by next week for sure. And we are planning another job fair to, as soon as we know how many vacancies we have. And then Mr. Luna and Mrs. Samaniego, I think, also talked about our celebration for Employees of the Year. And so that will be held on Thursday, April 25th, and it will happen it will take place at the cafeteria. So we will be sending you out invitations for that. Any questions for me?
Members of the board, any questions regarding human resources? Thank you for that, Denise. We don't have anybody still that wants to address the
No,
board.
sir.
Item 2, consent agenda items. Approval of the following consent agenda items. Number 1, payroll and expense voucher reports, A, B, and C. Mr. Lindeman.
I move to approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Members of the board, discussion regarding that? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes. Item 3A, discussion on the approval of certified hires. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, this is a teacher that is being hired for fiscal year 24-25, so for the next school year. And this is a special ed teacher.
Mr. Lindeman.
Move to approve the certified hire.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Any discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes. Item B, discussion action and approval of classified hires. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, we have 3, custodian at DHS, a data clerk entry for New Student Center, and a sub-custodian for the district.
Mr. Lindeman.
Move to approve the classified hires.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes. Item C, discussion action on the approval of certified resignations and retirements. Ms. Samaniego.
You have, we're presenting 2 resignations. The first 2, Mr. Gilbert Rojas and Mrs. Lourdes Mora. And the reason it's a resignation is because they had already retired and came back to work at the end of 24-25 school year. And then we have Ms. Shannon Seville, who is resigning effective end of 2025 school year. Maria Sexton, Luis Cañas, and Mr. Angel Vidal retirements for end of 24-25 school year as well. So a lot of longevity and veterans for our district will be retiring, resigning at the end of next school year.
Mr. Lindeman.
Move to approve the certified resignation and retirements.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Members of the board, any discussion?
I just
Mr.
wanted-
Lindeman? Mr. Ramos, go ahead.
No, I just, I just wanted to say, sad to see all these people that are gonna retire that we've known forever that have been in the district, so
Yes.
best wishes to them.
Mr. Lindeman.
And thank you for your service.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, there's so much that could be said about each and every one of those, and we don't have the time to do it, but all of them with regrets. We have a motion on the floor.
Yes, sir.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burry?
Yes. Item D, discussion action on the approval of classified retirements. Ms. Samaniego.
These are obviously classified staff members, and you have, all of them, are submitting a retirement, at different times of the year. Most of them are at the end of the 24-25 school year. But Carol Bettis with 20 years, Ramon Urquijo, 13 years, Rachel Nelly, 33 years, Noe Arvayo, 18 years, Sandra Rucchini, 31 years, Lisa Ortega, 30 years, Laura Martinez, 22 years, and Ana Hill, after 26 years. So definitely a lot of longevity here too in our district in various important positions within the district.
Mr. Lindeman,
Move to approve the classified retirements.
second
Second.
by Mr. Ramos. Members of the board, any discussion?
Again, thank them all for their years of service. This is going to be hard to replace.
Anybody else?
Really appreciate all that they've done for our school district and for our students. Thank you.
Yeah, and I echo that, and again, it would be hard to single out any one of them because there's a few in there that are exceptional. And again, I'm not gonna single anybody out, but, thank you to all of them for all of their years' of service. We have a motion on the floor, roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, item E, discussion action on approval of classified transfers, Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, Sylvia Molinet is being recommended to be the new Student Center Supervisor, and Yvette Arias from the Registrar position to the Data Management Specialist, which Sylvia Molinet holds right now. And this is due to Ana Flores, retiring from the district, and so there's some movement happening there.
Motion for discussion.
Move to approve the classified transfers.
Second
Second.
by Ms. Salchow. Any discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, item F, discussion action on the approval of athletic resignation, Ms. Samaniego.
This is from Shannon Seville, and this is for Paul Huber Middle School track coach position, resigning effective immediately.
Mr. Lindeman,
Move to approve the athletic resignation.
is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Sal,
Mr. Smith?
Mr. Smith. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, item G, discussion action on the approval of athletic hires, Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, we have Eddie Gonzalez being recommended for RBMS assistant softball coach and Dave Docto for Paul Huber Middle School track coach.
Get a motion, Mr. Lindeman.
Move to approve the athletic hires.
Second,
Second.
Ms. Salchow. Any discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, is that the Eddie Gonzalez whose dad was, and the family's been involved in baseball all those years? Yeah, well,
Yes.
that's an advantage having him.
Yes.
Item H, discussion action on the approval of volunteers, Ms. Samaniego.
This is Ramon Gonzalez volunteering for softball at RBMS, and all his paperwork is right there attached.
Mr. Lindeman,
Move to approve the volunteer.
is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Members of the board, discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, item I, discussion action on the approval of donations received for DUSD number 27, Ms. Samaniego.
There are 4 different donations. Donation of $500 from the National Society of Daughters of American Revolution to Clausen 4th grade classroom, and that is Mrs. Pineda's classroom. Donation of $1,254.89 from Donors Choose to the DHS Engineering Classroom Project led by Mrs. Barayardos. And donation of a value of estimated $4,000 from home donation of home essentials from the Douglas Elks Lodge to the Migrant McKinney-Vento program, and donation of $200 from Ms. Laura Skayowski to Sarah Marley Elementary School.
Mr. Lindeman,
Move to approve the donations.
second
Second.
by Mr. Smith. Members of the board, any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes. Item J, discussion action on the approval of gifts received for Douglas Unified School District number 27 and designating Superintendent Samaniego to determine the use of the gifts. Ms. Samaniego.
Governing Board, this is the first time I'm bringing this to you, and you have the guidance from our DUSD attorney, Jessica Sanchez and Brittany Rayner, attached that led to us bringing these items to the board. The guidance is very clear, and basically what they're saying that any time that a vendor, in this case, or an organization sends something as a gift for either a purchase that was done by the school or by the club, that we need to bring it to the board so that the board can approve it and designate the authority to me so I can designate where that item will go to. The items listed there, I want to make sure and clarify that the board understands in our community is that we're not making any arrangements with vendors to accept gifts. For example, the Yeti cooler that you see there, this was Douglas High School made an order in excess of like $5,000, I don't know, I want to say $5,300 around there. And so the company that they purchased from, because of the amount that was ordered, the school could select, they could earn a free gift of up to a value of, in this case, it was the Yeti cooler, $300. And so the hanger stacker is another thing that they earned, or they were able to receive because of the order that they received. And then another school was like the Stanley pitcher. And you see some of these are worth $5, a little tumbler. And we all know that when we go to, for example, to a conference, we can pick up a pen, they give you little mugs and, little giveaways, and those are fine. Our policy is very specific. So following their guidance, I'm bringing these to the board for approval. And if you allow me to then designate them, and Mrs. Valenzuela and I will keep track and where these items are going to, for example, to ensure that the board doesn't stay with an item, or I stay with an item where it belongs to an individual, but rather a school or the club that it came to.
Mr. Lindeman for
I
discussion.
move to approve the discussion of gifts.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Members of the board, discussion.
Yeah, I have a question here. I'm quickly reading through the attorney's background here. Neither the board nor the superintendent are permitted to keep the item for their personal use. However, should the board choose to re-gift the item to a student or family in exchange for specific consideration, such as academic achievement or parental volunteering, it is permitted to do so. But in effect, is a district property.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
That's it.
Very good. Any other questions? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, and just one further comment regarding that. It's good that you're super cautious on that, and I'm glad that the attorney gave you that advice, because the smallest thing could get somebody into trouble, and it snowball, and before you know it, it's a district problem. And so it's good that you're sensitive to those kinds of things. Item K, discussion action on the approval of the Douglas Unified School District number 27 administrative certified classified extra duty salary placement schedules for fiscal year 2024-25. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, Mr. Soto just added a certain increase on all of the positions and all of the salary schedules as you all approved the raises, and then the starting base on all of these positions reflects also an increase.
Mr. Lindeman,
I move to approve item K in its entirety.
is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Salchow. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindeman?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, item L, discussion action on the approval of certified contract renewals for the 2024-25 school year. Ms. Samaniego.
These are two certified positions, Belinda Smith and Paco Martin, for the 24-25 school year.
Mr. Lindeman,
Move to approve the contract renewals.
is there a second?
Second.
Discussion?
I have a correction on
Okay.
the name. It's Martin Paco, Alma, for the record, instead of Paco Martin. Okay.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item M, discussion action on the approval of classified staff rehires for fiscal year 2024-25. Ms. Samaniego.
Mrs. Cox worked with our HR department and verified that all of our individuals have a good standing evaluation and recommendation for future contract with DUSD, and these are all of our classified employees.
That's all of them. Mr. Lindemann,
I move to approve the classified staff rehires.
is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Any discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item N, discussion action on the approval of fiscal year 2024-25 employee contracts for directors, principals, and assistant principals. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, you have all of our certified directors, principals, and assistant principals, with the exception of Mr. Marco Durazo, not because he's not getting a contract, but because he is the only one that still gets the benefits paid for, and we are bringing those amounts to the board in a future meeting, so I couldn't present Marco. You have their contract information there, and it is with the 3% increase as you approved for certified staff.
Mr. Lindemann,
I move to approve the employment contracts for directors, principals, and assistant principals.
second
Second.
by Mr. Smith. Any discussion, members of the board? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item O, discussion action on the approval of VSI hires for school year 2024-25. Ms. Samaniego.
The ESI hires that you have before you are the current ones we have employed this year through ESI, Mr. Albert Young, Richard Acosta, Clint Hill, and Diane Campos.
Motion?
Move to approve the ESI hires.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Salchow. Any discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item P, discussion action on the approval of the foreign language textbook adoption for Spanish and French for grades 9 through 12. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, you have substantive background information in your board packet. The textbook adoption is Spanish for speakers and non-speakers, CLET, AP Spanish Vista Learning, French Vista Learning, AP French Vista Learning, and this will be funded out of our ESSER 3 grant.
Mr. Lindemann,
I move to approve the language textbook adoption.
is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Salchow. Discussion, members of the board.
I have one question that brings up. We approve these new textbooks. How long are they in use? Or will they be?
God, Mrs. Herrera, come up.
Sorry. Good evening, board members, Mr. Brain, President, Mrs. Samaniego. When we went through the textbook adoption, one of the things I asked the textbook company specifically for foreign language, because they had not had a textbook in probably 30 plus years, is that we are purchasing what's called a bundle, which is print and digital. The digital copies will be available to the district for 5 years, because that's what the adoption is. The physical textbooks we are hoping will last many years, because that's what the route we decided to go. So 5 years for the digital bundle, and then the physical textbooks. We are purchasing a physical textbook for every single student who takes foreign language.
Other questions?
Yeah,
Mr.
thank you.
Lindemann, go ahead.
In this day and age, we should really do away with textbooks and keep everything online. Now, that may not be possible, because you always have to buy the rights to these things. But I'm just thinking that, the old days are gone. And I just wonder if there's a way that we could do that, maybe a different company or some kind of research. I don't know what's offered.
So during the adoption process, the RFP, which is the request for proposals, the consultants sent out the bids. And then based off of the bids that came in, the adoption committee looked at each of the different textbooks and what they had to offer. So right now, every company would prefer us to go solid digital, which we would love to do for the next 15, 20 years. However, based on the funding that we had available out of ESSER, we could only do a 5-year, what they call a bundled adoption, which is the digital. So every student will have an opportunity to have a digital copy for at least 5 years. But keeping in mind the state of the budgets and financing for districts right now, at the end of that 5 years, we will have 6 different adoptions that are going to have to be taken into consideration: ELA, math, social studies, science, and foreign language, and science K-5. The district probably may not be able to fund all of those adoptions at once, so we took into consideration the biggest bang for our buck, which would be, yes, let's get the bundle right now, which is the digital plus the physical textbook, and then in year 6, we don't want the foreign language department to be in the current position that they're in, is not to have textbooks to at least refer back to. So come year 6, if the district is not able to fund all of those adoptions at once, at least they will have a physical textbook that they can give out to students. Is it the most ideal? No. But it is the most practical and fiscally responsible thing to do, is to make sure that come year 6 through 10, that there's something there for our kids.
Okay, thank you. Members of the board, any other questions?
No.
I have one.
Okay.
The textbook Spanish for speakers and non-speakers, CLET World Language, it's not the same textbook for the non-speakers as it is for the speakers, right?
No, they're
It's
two
just the same
different.
company, right?
It's the same company. We had to go with the other company because of AP. They are the only company that offers AP. And so CLET had for speakers and non-speakers. We're a rare district that offers both. So most districts have just Spanish or just French. They don't have it for native speakers. So this particular company was able to give us differentiated textbooks, and they are different textbooks.
Okay.
So speakers get one, non-speakers will get a different one.
Okay, members of the board, any follow-up questions? Thank you, Ms. Zara.
Okay.
Did you have anything else you
No.
want to add? Members of the board, any other questions or comments?
No.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Alcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, item Q, discussion action on the approval of science textbook adoption for grades K through 5. Ms. Samaniego.
The textbook that is being recommended is through Discovery Education for K-5 Science. And again, the same process was followed, same timeline, same funding source, ESSER. And this really came about through conversations and input from our elementary teachers who desperately wanted and needed something in the science field because we hadn't had one for a long time. So this is being funded out of ESSER again.
Mr. Lindemann,
I move to approve the science textbook adoption.
second
Second.
by Mr. Smith. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mr. President,
Go ahead.
these are textbooks. In my mind, all the students have computers, right? They're having laptops checked out to them.
Yes, they do, Mr. Linden.
I'll answer your question. For our elementary students, it's still a bundle. So they will have access because ADE has a contract with Discovery. So all the digital resources come to us for free. So we're not actually paying for the digital copies, but we do have physical textbooks because our kinder, first, and second grade students have iPads. And they stay at school. So in order for a student to do any kind of homework at home, they need something physical to take with them in their workbooks. They're called text books instead of textbooks now. So they'll be able to write in them. They're consumables is what these textbooks are, but we still have the digital access.
So I'm just wondering, now this is at the elementary level,
Correct.
right? Okay, so in effect, they have is a workbook
Correct.
that they come along, and then they have the digital on the, at school on the computer. Well, that's good. At the middle school, I don't know if that would be, if we get, go into that, because this is not on the agenda. So, but I was gonna ask the question, if the middle school, and I am not sure if the high school has a computer checked out to them, then all of their textbooks should be on the computer. They shouldn't have to have a computer, or I mean a textbook, unless you go to the library and do further research.
Okay, so last year, when we did the adoption for 612, those were also bundled, so they do have access to digital textbooks. But 6th, 7th, and 8th did request the workbook also. So they actually have both. High school does have some physical textbooks because not all of our students have internet at home, and we have to be able to provide for those students who do not have internet, or they don't have a computer because they either broke it, lost it, destroyed it, whatever they did with the district computer, because we do have some students who do not have access to a computer.
Okay.
Normally, when a workbook, kind of going off, Mitch, how many students complete that workbook by the end of the year? Or are there a lot of pages not used, or a big chunk of the workbook that's not used?
That I wouldn't be able to answer right off the top of my head for you, but the lessons in the workbooks follow the Arizona state standards. So as the teacher goes along, the workbook follows the standards that they're required to teach. So at the end of the school year, if the teacher has taught all of the standards, they should have used the majority of the textbook or the workbook.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Mr.
I'm just gonna say my further questions, I'm gonna reserve for another time. I don't wanna get too involved here, because
Okay.
it's not on the agenda. But, so, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Is anyone else? No? Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Burring?
Yes, item R, discussion action on the approval of new athletic director trainer, full-time position and job description. Ms. Samaniego.
Before you, you have a job description that Mrs. Cox worked on. We don't have an athletic, we used to have an athletic, we do have an athletic trainer. That's Mitch Nelson, right? And he, you just approved his resignation last board meeting. Mr. Nelson has been doing dual roles as a sports medicine teacher and the athletic trainer for many years. And so with his resignation, that leaves us without an athletic trainer. In the meeting before, where we discussed potential salaries, the budget, and all of the, things that encompass our budget, this was one position that I had mentioned that I would be requesting the board to approve, because this is a new full-time funded position that will need to be funded out of the M&O budget. And so therefore, we have the athletic trainer job description. I have been, along with Mrs. Cox, I have been working with a young lady who is part of the Athletic Trainer Association Board of Directors in getting guidance on some of the language and verbiage and requirements for the athletic trainer position. And so we worked on it over the weekend after this job description was already posted. So I may need to bring this back to the board with some, minor changes on the job description. And we are still working on the dynamics of where it's going to be placed in the salary. It is going to be a 12-month position, because you know that an athletic trainer and athletic events, they work practically year-round. Mr. Nelson is being paid with an addenda for every season of the athletic, events, and also summer athletic events as well. So this is basically a position that requires somebody, year-round. So at this point, I'm bringing the job description for board approval. It'll be funded out of M&O, and I will be most likely bringing it back with some minor changes and some more information as far as where it's going to be placed in the salary.
Just one comment, and then you correct me if I'm wrong. You said that it's fully funded out of M&O. It's not, because Mr. Nelson was funded for the classroom teaching out of CTE, correct?
Yes, his addendas were being paid out of M&O, but this position
Right.
will be, if approved, it will have to be funded out of, the M&O budget.
But the position, the teaching position.
No, it's not. No, that's CTE,
Right.
exactly.
And so we're looking at a pretty complex thing here. Let's get a motion on the floor for discussion.
Mr. President, I'm just wondering if this shouldn't be tabled, because she's not entirely gotten the whole story here.
How would you feel about it being tabled? Would that give you more time, or would it give you, as you interview and people get, by the way, well, no, anyway, do you post the job description online when you have posted a position? Is the
Yes,
job-
and that's
job
why
description-
I wanted to have the job description
Right.
posted, because
So-
of the complexity of this position.
Right.
And the available candidates that may be interested. I am really concerned, so I at least wanted this job description with the, I'm confident that most of everything, that's in here is valid and reasonable, because Mrs. Cox worked to put this together via Vales, Peoria, and a few other school districts. And so I'm just concerned that we may not find somebody by the time our athletic program initiates in June with PPT.
I think if she were to, do we have a motion on the floor?
Now, let me make the motion then. If it's just the job description, I move to approve the job description.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. Okay, now discussion. Mr. Lindeman, I think that's certainly a possibility of tabling, but I think, and she said it, and I think Denise would agree, on the posting, they could put possible revision. In other words, but to get it out there so that any potential candidate could see it and know exactly what basically is gonna be required. Because it's gonna be a completely different position, and it's gonna be, as she said, complex. So,
Yeah, and I'd like to see how it fits into the org chart and those type of things. When you get all those
Extra
dominoes lined up, I'd like to see that in there.
Ms. Salchow, I think you had some questions regarding.
I do. Okay. So this employee would not teach,
No,
but how
go
would their day start? When would it start? Would it be a flexible or very fluid type of thing? Would there be a minimum of hours they're expected to work? I know that there won't be a maximum amount of hours, because,
Yes.
yeah.
Lots of very good questions. In creating this position and knowing the dynamics, from hours to flexibility to whether it's a teaching position, right now, the way that it's set, it is strictly an athletic trainer position with flexibility in their time. Meaning that in comparing another athletic trainer who worked in the Cienega School District, for example, that person would come in at about noon. But that person did have some teaching positions, teaching periods, a couple periods a day to teach, and then stayed through the end of the night with not a maximum amount of hours, for example. So crafting this position is definitely going to engage Mrs. Rodriguez and her team at Douglas High School with the hours and the flexibility, the dynamics of it. I had a conversation with Mrs. Rodriguez last week. She is indicating that there's a number of students that have shown interest in taking the sports medicine class. And so with Mr. Nelson only now teaching, that opens some of, I think, a couple more periods for him to teach. But also the athletic trainer or sports medicine, I want to say year 3, Mrs. Rodriguez, or year 4, would possibly be the kids that would eventually end up as the DHS, athletic trainers for students. So that was just in conversation last week where she indicated there may be a need where we would, offer 2 other teaching periods. Now, I don't have that, and I'm not presenting it that way, but I'm just letting you know that that was a conversation that was held with Mrs. Rodriguez last week. So flexibility, yes, and it's going to be in writing, with the expectations of this period, of this person, because you can't expect this person to come in at 8 o'clock and stay till, 10 o'clock. And we know that those long nights could be 10, 11, especially if you have to travel with some of our athletes. And so, yes, flexibility, minimum of hours, but no really set in stone as far as the maximum.
Okay, and then summer hours. I know that there's I'm old school, I call it bigger,
PPT,
stronger,
yes.
faster, but whatever it is, whatever
Our
the
summer
acronym is,
athletic
right.
program.
Right, the summer athletic program. What would happen like in the afternoons and things, because that's usually a morning program.
Yes.
I know there would be some physical type of, you go to the athletic trainer for some physical therapy, sort of. I mean, you can't make it like, at the clinic, but that type of thing. I know that person would do those types of things, but what about within that typically 7.5 to 8 hour day?
Okay. So those are still, for the position in itself, in considering whether this would be even a 10th month, an 11th month position. So that's where the dynamics of what I would bring back to the board and say, okay, this is what we have concrete. And I'm hoping to have all of these questions you have answered within the next 2 weeks, so that we know that this is a 10th month position, 11 month position, and an 11 month would be working under those hours. Because the athletic trainer, as Mr. Nelson has been working, he's there for the summer PPT, and then he's available during the weight training, when the kids go to, the exercise in the morning and then they go to weight train. So he's there. I'm not sure how many hours, Mrs. Rodriguez or Mr. Vidal, that potentially.
Well, in addition, we have open field, we have open gym. So there's treatment of students. It's not just during PPT.
Okay.
It's open field, open gym all summer long. And we have some sports teams that do their own
Training.
tournaments and traveling during the summer as well, during the open field, open gym time. So, I mean, we have athletes there all summer long.
Okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Ms. Alcho, go ahead. Are you done?
Those
Okay.
were my questions.
Any other member of the board comment? Mr. Smith?
I had questions about currently I know that the sports medicine and the athletic training position dovetail in pretty well, where they utilize the students in the sports medicine to assist the trainers. Is that in their plan
Yes.
for that to be written in so that those students will get that opportunity to get hands-on sports medicine with the athletic trainer,
Yes,
that kind
definitely.
of stuff? Okay.
I think the way that position has actually evolved in the district over the years, I think the first full-time trainer was a fellow named Ray Crispin, if I'm not mistaken. And then I think Randy Walker came in as a full-time athletic director. I don't know.
Athletic trainer.
Trainer. Did he, Ms. Walker, did he teach when he taught? And he was the athletic trainer, but as time goes on and the evolution of that job, especially with all of the demands of it today, they're gonna have to do what they have to do to accommodate. And I think that's like any other situation, like the athletic director at the high school. Presently, it's assistant principal and athletic director. But prior to that, it was a full-time athletic director. And so I think they're doing a good job in your conversations with other districts who have athletic programs of this size would be good people, good references for you. And so I think, Mr. Lindeman, if that satisfies you without having the table, let them go ahead and post it, and then see, and then as it goes along, if there's any revision, let them bring it back to the board.
Sure.
Okay?
Well, I made the motion. Yeah, I had a motion on the floor. And,
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I know, but you know, you could vote against it.
oh, yeah,
too.
yeah, sure.
So
Good point.
anyway, all right, any further discussion, members of the board? Anything you want to add?
No, not at this point.
Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Elcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Brain?
Here, yes. Discussion, action on item S of accepting the 2023 audit issued on March 21st, 2024 for fiscal year 2022-23. Who's going to do that, you or Mr. Soto?
Mr. Soto, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah.
Again, this is just the acceptance from the board for the finalized audit for the school year 2023, which
Members, of the,
was finalized and sent to.
well, let's
You
get,
guys,
before we do that, Mr. Soto, are you done with whatever you prefacing remarks?
Yes.
Okay, let's get a motion, board members.
I move to approve the 2023 audit issued March 21st, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Now discussion. Mr. Lindeman, did you have a question regarding?
Oh, yeah. You know, I see on these things that we have a few no's. And there, that means that the district wasn't doing the things that the auditor caught. And just for an example, the first one comes up, travel expenditures and mileage reimbursements for district purposes, in accordance with board policy, was not followed.
Are you on,
I'm on travel, number one.
number one? Okay.
Am I reading that correctly? Because that's a bad one.
Let me see.
There's a few other in there.
Yes, so basically, these were the audit findings, and anytime that you see a no, there's an explanation of what caused that no from the auditors. And so the auditors have met with us, as they do always, when there is an audit finding and before they compile this full report. We have an opportunity to resubmit any documents that may turn that no into a yes, and we were able to do that in some cases, and I will answer that specific question right now. We were able to change some of the no's to a yes because of a document that was provided by the different departments. Now, when we get audited, it is an audit of, all departments. There may be a file here, a file there, and there's where you have your no. As far as the travel that you see here, there was, and I'm trying to go to that page, Mr. Lindeman. I think it was on a reimbursement. And when that was brought forth, we did meet with Mrs. Barcelo and Mr. Soto. We meet as a team, and I asked, how did that happen? How could we avoid that from happening again? And it was, an oversight in our business department, specifically to that reimbursement. And so when you see a no, there is an explanation, and this gives us an opportunity to, correct anything that the auditors found that we had an audit finding in. And so we will make sure that whatever caused that one to be an audit finding doesn't happen again.
Right, well, and I'm glad of that, because there are a couple of things that are glaring, and, and I'm sorry to say that should never have happened. You can't track possession of district credit cards. That's a no. I know you researched that and changed that, but, those type of things, the small things turn into big things, and we really have to watch out for that.
Let me see if I can go find that one. Mr. Soto, do you remember that one on the credit card?
That was on number 4, credit cards.
Yeah, that was basically the auditors want a document for, like, basically most of the people that utilize the credit card. Definitely, Mrs. Samaniego and myself have one there signed because those credit cards are under our names. But that one, I don't remember the specific person that we didn't have that document on file. And I think, you're referring to number 4 under the credit cards and P cards, which is purchasing cards, which we don't utilize purchasing cards, only credit cards. But that's basically what it is. Like Mrs. Samaniego said, it's something that we need to require from all of the people that utilize these credit cards to have a document on file signed by them, but specifically knowing the procedures of utilizing the credit card and things like that.
Didn't show many samples. Okay.
Yes, so what that one is, Mr. Lindeman, I want to make sure that the board understands, it wasn't that anybody was using the credit card inappropriately, but when they looked at certain documents, there's a credit card in Mr. Soto's name and another credit card in my name, and so there is another credit card that we have for CTE. So I believe what they were looking for, because I did ask that question, how do we get an audit finding on that? And there's a specific language that the auditors want now on our credit card user agreement. And so that language was not on that document. So now, now business office knows that that specific language has to be on the credit card user agreement that, the individuals that are gonna use that credit card have to sign and has to be. So now business office has rectified that, and we are now, all of us will have that document with that specific language, and that's what the audit finding was.
Okay, well, and that's a good thing.
yes.
Because, I'd like to see all of this tightened up for
Yes.
the next audit, and then we won't have any of these.
Most definitely.
So, thank you very much.
Other members of the board, any questions regarding that?
Well, going with the travel, didn't we get hit for that last year too?
It was when we had the admin retreat, that it wasn't done as it was treated as a conference instead of a retreat. And so the reimbursement was not done right. So this one is not exactly like that, but there was a reimbursement done, I believe, for meals at a different rate than it should have been followed.
Okay.
And that's what that was.
Thank you. My next question is, one of the very first things that shows up in here is that fundraisers for clubs, organizations, and all like that will be board approved and will come to us. That's kind of like, I don't know, I worked in the district a long time. When that was made into policy, that was kind of drilled into our heads that you did not have a fundraiser that you didn't bring before the school board. I'm just kind of disappointed to see that we've fallen off of that, obviously, from what the findings were.
Can you point that out on which one, Mrs.
Let me
Salsa?
see. I have to go way back. It's one of the very first.
I don't know.
Yes, yes.
I can't get that on at all. Mine's all screwed up. It's all messed up. No, it's not there. It doesn't go down far enough. It doesn't go down far enough. It's not on there.
Number 10, the governing board approves students, clubs, organization, fundraising events, and it references ARS 815-1121. And Attorney General Opinion 1,
Okay.
or I-84.
So if I may, on this one, I think it was, and you'll see that says, for one of the 5 student activities, cash receipts reviewed, governing board approval was not obtained for the fundraiser. So what that means is that the way that our fundraisers happen, there is it's an approved policy form based on on one of our policies. So anytime there is an approved fundraiser, it goes, to the, let's say, chain of command. It starts at the lowest level, the let's say the supervisor, the sponsor, then sends it to the principal. Then it comes over to me, and then I look and review everything, and then I approve it. And so I think what happened in that case, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Soto, one of those didn't have one of the signatures Am I correct on that one?
Yes, correct.
And so, but everything else, so I mean, it's not like we don't bring everything to the board, and you'll see one of the policies that were updated by SBA, that's our last agenda item, does have something in there, and I discussed it with Mr. Bahrain. And so, in terms of bringing a list of items for approval, we can bring a general list, you know, like candy sales, snack bar sales, memorabilia sales, but there's a lot of fundraisers that are happening, but there is a paperwork trail, and they look at all of that. So there must have been some signature missing on one out of the five that they pulled out. So it doesn't mean that we're not doing things right.
Okay.
It means that particular one didn't have a signature.
Okay, looking at the audit report, and you do see, I mean, what is it, 99% of what we see here are in the yes, that we're doing things correctly, thank you. Did you see when you look at these that there any repeat from the previous audit that did not get corrected? Do you as
Yes, no.
superintendent see that?
Yes, and we definitely, I will tell you that Mrs. Barcelo, Mr. Soto, and I, that's one of the first things that I look at. You know, what are we still not correcting and what is new? For example, there's one that I had questions about, and I said, okay, how does this happen? But it's the one where it says that, this isn't a technology one. And so there are two, let's say 3 vendors. It's Power School, it's Visions, and it's our time clock that are 3, that they refer to there. And so we got a no on that, not because we don't have the safeguards, but those companies, one of those companies that they looked at didn't have a document that specifically said, we as Power School safeguard, all the data that's in there. So it's a simple document. So now that was totally new. And I had that conversation with Marco right before the meeting again. I wanted to make sure. And so we do look at it. There's, I don't like to see no's. I don't like to get audit findings. And I take these very seriously.
I know you do. Thank you.
Mr. Soto, is there anything you want to add to that?
No, like Mrs. Samaniego said, I mean, it's just we always address the findings, make sure that those don't happen again in the future. It's, as you know, it's a lot of compliance that we have to, follow, and it's very, very rare where you have, a perfect audit. But yeah, again, with all the reassurance that we always look at the findings and implement rules and policies where to avoid having the same, mistake consecutive years.
Or new ones, for that matter.
Okay. I want to thank I want to thank personally the business department for their diligence and their vigilance with this, and then of course the oversight of Mr. Soto's level, and then it comes to the superintendent. But this type of thing just reflects so that the board knows that on a daily basis they deal, and I've talked about the business department before, that people at the building level or in the cafeteria or maintenance or wherever, they don't realize that when they get told no, or you can't do this, or they say that the auditors, it goes over most of their head. They think, well, I couldn't care less about the auditor. You'd worry about the auditors. So if they're not, if they tell them, no, you've got to get more quotes, you've got to run that back, or that's not a proper invoice. That's what they deal with all day long with the staff in the district. And this is the ultimatum here. And I can tell you that I looked at that very carefully, and it's a good report. It actually is a good report. And if you see, and as she very well explained, if you see, they take samples, and it'll show you how many samples they looked at there. For instance, that one file they pulled, I think there was 19. So the auditors, when they sat in there, or they sit in there, and they have all of these files, and they go to the schools as well, and they pull these files and they find one. If they get the wrong one, then that could be the one that will cause the finding. So, you did a good job of explaining, and if you'll notice, members of the board, it'll cite where the infraction was, the finding was, the statute, and where it'll say USFR, which is the Uniform System of Financial Records. And then it'll go through and this is the compliance. And that, they don't give us all of the details, but that's the compliance. So again, want to thank the business department for doing an exceptional job, because those findings are they're significant, but they're not that serious. They could be a lot of other things that are much more serious. So, you did a good job of explaining that, so thank you. If you want to follow up, go ahead.
Mrs. Selchuk.
I was gonna say, and focus on, like I said, it's 98 to 90% all good, all yes.
Yes,
So
I will
the
tell you
public needs to
that
know
the audit, it's a very stressful time, because you may have a file that the parent liaison has to get every single little document. And Mr. Smith, you would know of audits because you worked with the government. And next time it's, a food service secretary having to pull all of those files, and then it's New Student Center, and it's the data, and then it's HR, and then it's Alma. So it is very complex, but I do take things very seriously and definitely look at improving.
It's a good report.
Okay, any further discussion on that? Roll call. for
Mr.
the
Smith?
Acceptance.
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Breen?
Yes, item T, discussion action on the approval of the contract between Douglas Unified School District Number 27 and the Arizona Department of Education for the Teacher Dual Enrollment Development Fund in San Diego.
Okay, this is something new that is being offered this year by ADE. And so the main part of focus that, if you approve this allows ADE to pay as an incentive, the contractor meaning us, an incentive bonus of up to $1,000 for each qualified teacher who teaches a dual enrollment course. Contractor will pay the full amount to each qualified teacher. If monies in the fund are insufficient to fund all bonus awards, the reimbursement is reduced in a proportion to each exam's cost. And so this is a way for AD to recognize our dual enrollment teachers who need a very specific certification. It's not just your bachelor's. And so currently we have about 5, I believe, teachers at Douglas High School, 5 or 6 who could qualify for this extra incentive pay. And so it is with ADE and school districts. It is being provided, and I think it's an excellent incentive for our dual enrollment teachers.
I'll entertain a motion to
I
approve.
move to approve item T.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Ms. Salchow. Members of the board, any further discussion regarding this?
Yeah, I just had a quick question on the credits.
Uh-huh.
When we have a dual enrollment class like this, is that with the college?
Yes,
So
so it's
it's
that
a
partnership
credit
with,
college? Okay.
Cochise College.
Good, I'm
And I
glad
think,
that-
Victor, you may have mentioned when you take the test and you pass it, you are able to get college credit for those AP or the dual enrollment.
For
class.
the AP
class.
curriculum, yes, but for dual enrollment, it's more so you're going through the coursework that is generally
Provided.
offered at the college
College.
level, and then depending on your letter grade, you are merited that credit or not.
I've always been in favor of trying to expand that
Yes.
program over the years, so thank you.
How many approximately how many dual enrollment classes do we have?
Mrs. Rodriguez? You want to come up to the podium?
Through our CTE program, we offer probably the most dual enrollment. But this is our second year in implementing English dual enrollment with Cochise College and math dual enrollment. So we hope in the future to expand that to possibly history and science classes as well. But we do offer several dual enrollment through our CTE program. So we're trying to get more core classes in there. But yes, we're on the right path.
Good.
Any further discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes, item U, discussion action pursuant to policy BGF to temporarily suspend policy BGB, requiring 2 readings of the proposed policies prior to approval of the adoption in order to approve the following policy advisories immediately upon first reading. Ms. Samaniego.
As presented, and again, these are coming straight from ASBA with some language that is either struck out, and you have all that in your background, or they're deleting, a whole paragraph of it. We have reviewed it as an admin team. Specifically, our principals need to know if it applies to their, for example, the graduation, that applies to Douglas High School. So we have reviewed, and I'm bringing this for approval.
And they come from, these, generally, comes to the legislature and the
Yes.
state board, right?
Mhm.
Okay, get a motion on the floor.
I move to approve item U in its entirety.
Is there a second?
Second.
By Mr. Ramos. Members of the board, do you have any questions regarding any of those? Was that you, Janet? Did you?
No, that's okay. I think we tied, but,
Mr. Ramos?
I'll
Okay.
give it to Mr.
Any discussion regarding any one of those policies at all?
No, I ran through these and it looks
Pretty standard.
yeah.
There's none that significantly
No.
impact, you discussed the ones that do with at the instructional level, but none that really impact the board except that 2+2, that one, that advisory we got. No further questions or discussion? Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. Item 4, executive session. The governing board may vote into executive session to consider a student's appeal to the recommendation of the hearing officer concerning the long-term suspension of student A pursuant to ARS 15-843 subsection A. The board can discuss and vote on the recommendation of the hearing officer in executive session. Let me get a motion on the floor.
I move to enter into executive session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Ms. Salcha?
Okay.
Next time, we're gonna flip for it.
Okay.
That's the arbitrator over there. Roll call.
Mr. Smith?
Yes.
Ms. Salcha?
Yes.
Mr. Lindemann?
Yes.
Mr. Ramos?
Yes.
Mr. Berry?
Yes. We're gonna go into executive session, and we're gonna take about a 5-minute break prior to that.
I need a break. You know what? I'm gonna tell you, it's Alma's fault because she got us in my
Information items, Ms. Samaniego.
Hold on. Pedro needs to. Okay, we're good.
Are we,
Yes.
Yeah.
we good to go? Information items, Ms. Samaniego.
Yes. We have our next regular board meeting on May 7th. I also want to recognize our assistant principals. This week, it is National Assistant Principal Day, so we have 4, Ms. Trinta, Ms. Escalante, Mr. Young, and Mr. Vidal. So congratulations to them, and hopefully their principals will give them the nice royal treatment this week. And that's all I have.
Entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
By Mr. Smith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, board members.
I'm going to leave my mints here. Your mints. My mints.